beautiful family. I am Pulaa Montz, your inner voice magnified. So today I want to talk to you about changing the inner dialogue that you have so that you're able to experience peace, right? So as I've been working on myself, the one thing that I had to learn was to speak well to myself, to speak well about myself, and to think positive and actually building thoughts, right? Because as I was starting to take note of my thoughts and the narrative and dialogue that I had on the inside of me, I realized that it is not even about people speaking bad about me or demotivating me. I was demotivating myself by the kind of thoughts that I had. I always believed that I was just not disciplined. I was not committed enough. I just couldn't get myself to do something, right? I always believed that the only way for me to achieve something is if it was work-related stuff. But when it came to personal goals, I could never achieve any personal goals, and it was because I believed that I could never start anything on my own without somebody pushing me from behind, a boss telling you, no, I need those things right now, without deadlines from somebody. So when I realized that that was the kind of narrative that I had told myself for so long, and I started believing, I realized I needed to change, because there was no point in me thinking ill of myself, speaking badly about myself. I realized that all those things, those thoughts, those negative words that I was using against me were actually keeping me in those positions of being not disciplined and not committed to anything, right? Because I believe that whatever you call yourself, you live up or down to it, right? So if you say you are a committed person, and you tell everybody that you're a committed person, and when people start talking about you, they talk about how committed you are, eventually you will start living up to that title, right? Because we do really live up or down to the kind of the words that we use for ourselves, or when we define ourselves. Those are the kind of words that we live up or down to. So I realized that I was not even trying hard enough, because I just believed that I was ill-disciplined, and that was it. So I just wanted to say to you, could it be that whatever it is that you're struggling with, right? Is it because maybe you have said some things about yourself? You have spoken ill of yourself, so now you are living down to that definition that you have of yourself. I tell you, when I started changing the words that I was using towards myself, when I started changing my narrative about myself, I started living up to words such as discipline, words such as commitment, right? Because the more I did some things and people started noticing, the more people started referring to me as disciplined and committed, and I liked it. And the more I wanted to do things that will make me or will define me as a committed and a dedicated person, right? So I believe that most of the time we try and find fault from the external environment, and we neglect the fact that we too speak ill of ourselves, and the message that you speak about yourself and the kind of narrative that you have about yourself is what you actually believe more than any other message that you can ever receive from the external environment. So it is important monitor our internal environment, to monitor our internal dialogue and narrative, so that we are able to become the people that we want to become. So today I just wanted to say to you, we focus too much on the external environment. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. There is such a huge accident, like huge accident, huge. Okay. Yeah, anyway. We focus so much on blaming the external environment, blaming people that they don't, believe in us. They don't believe that we can do the things that we say we can do, or they are the reasons why we are not doing what we want to do with our lives, right? But I just wanted to challenge you for once. Can you look at what you are saying to yourself? Can you look at what you are believing about yourself? Because it doesn't matter, I tell you, what other people say. As long as you believe you are able, as long as you believe that you've got this, nobody else can tell you otherwise. People can try and demotivate you. What you say to yourself will eventually win over any other thing that somebody says to you. I think we spend a lot of time blaming people, but in fact, that act of blaming is saying something about you. It is saying that probably you are the kind of person who doesn't want to take responsibility for their own actions. And that is the narrative now that you need to look at when you look at yourself and how far you've come, the kind of goals you haven't achieved. You will need to, and you're still blaming other people for it. Then it's that time where you need to realize that actually the fact that you are still blaming other people, it means there is something wrong with the internal dialogue that you have. It means you haven't gotten to a stage where you say to yourself, you know what, whatever happens in my life, I am responsible. The first question before blaming anybody else that I need to ask myself is, how did I get myself into this mess? And when you have such a narrative on the inside of you, then you'll find that when you do experience challenges, the last thing that you'll think about is other people, blaming people, because you've got this sense in you, you've got this belief in you that everything that happens in your life, you are responsible for. If you keep telling yourself that, you start believing it. And when you have challenges, you don't look to the external environment to find answers. You start looking within. So I believe that when we start changing our inner dialogue, when we start changing the things that we believe about ourselves, then we start improving our lives. We start achieving the goals that we thought we were not going to achieve. We start becoming those committed and disciplined people that we know. I heard Lisa Nichols saying, people want to say about her that she is extraordinary because it lets them off the hook. So when we believe that people are disciplined, people are committed, we want to say that about those people because we don't want to put effort to make sure that we also do the kind of things that they do. She says, I'm an ordinary person who makes extraordinary decisions every day, which is something that all of us can do. If you decide that you want to start exercising, start now. Start in the evening if you're already at work. Start today with 10 minutes, 5 minutes of doing something. And the more you commit to the 10 minutes, to the 5 minutes every day, the more you'll start feeling like you need more. The more you'll start increasing the workout session, right? And that's how we build habits. That's how extraordinary people that we know become extraordinary, because they just decided, you know what, they are getting rid of the negative dialogue they are telling themselves, this is what I'm committing to. Commit to one thing at a time. If it is just exercise for this year, commit only to that. You will see as years go by, you'll start becoming a different person. I mean, sometimes we will try and overwhelm ourselves with all sorts of areas of our lives that we want to change, and eventually we don't change anything. But when you commit to something for 6 months, and then in the next 6 months you add the second thing that you want to commit to, then eventually after 3 years you are a completely different person. You can't even recognize yourself. I mean, I shock myself every time I look at myself because of the things that I've managed to achieve in the past 2.5 years, right? So it is possible for all of us to do something, to achieve the things that we want to achieve, and to maintain peace in our spirits just by changing the dialogue that we have. Nobody's perfect. Sometimes we want to say things about ourselves when we start seeing it. For instance, you won't say you are disciplined until you see that you're disciplined. But I tell you, we live up or down to the things that we call ourselves. Because the more you tell yourself that you are a disciplined person, then eventually you start believing it. And when you start believing it, then you start acting towards what you believe about yourself. And because the more you believe it, you start telling people that I'm very disciplined. I am so disciplined these days, it's not even funny. I'm shocking myself. And the more you say that, the more people expect you to be disciplined, and the more motivated you are to be disciplined. So start speaking right. Start having great inner dialogues about yourself, and you will see you'll start living up to what you believe you are on the inside. I am Pulaa Montz, your inner peace and purpose coach. Bye. On the road.